Well, the dust has finally started to settle on the Genshin Impact voice actor drama, and the outcome is exactly what many of us predicted. Hoyoverse has officially recast two of its most iconic English voices, Paimon and Keqing. But this isn't just a simple casting change, it is the final chapter in a long, messy story of failed negotiations, public meltdowns, and corporate decision making. So today, we're going to do a full breakdown on how we got here and what it all means. We will start by deconstructing the official quote-unquote AI protection narrative to reveal the inconsistencies and alleged hypocrisy behind it. We will identify the key figures in what some have called a VA civil war and detail how their campaign devolved from activism into unprofessional attacks on fans and even their own peers. From there, we will dive into the fan-facing fallout, including my own personal heartbreak over the new Keqing voice, and talk about the actual difference between criticism and harassment. And finally, we will look into the ultimate failure of this entire movement and the lesson it teaches us about professionalism in the modern gaming landscape. It is a story with a lot of moving parts, so let's just get right into it. So in the last video, we broke down the chaotic state of the unofficial VA strike against Hoyoverse, and now, as many of us expected, the other shoe has dropped. With the release of the version 5.7 patch notes, it is now official. The English voices for both Paimon and Keqing are being recast. Kayli Mills, the former Keqing VA, put out a statement confirming that she was informed of the decision, citing the official reason given to her as production schedule, which, as anyone who has ever worked in a corporate environment knows, is often a very polite, sterile way of saying you have become a liability to our production schedule. But the real headline here isn't just Keqing, it was Paimon. Paimon is the face of the game, the player's constant companion, the mascot. Recasting her isn't just swapping out a voice, it is a statement of power. It was Hoyoverse drawing a clear line in the sand, sending a message to the entire English VA cast that no one, even the main mascot, is irreplaceable. Turns out, even emergency food can be replaced with a fresher meal from the pantry.
No, for the last time, Paimon is not emergency food!
This was the definitive end to the standoff. So why did this happen? Well, if you listen to the departing voice actors, the reason was a noble one. The central talking point for this entire movement was a principled stand for AI protections. Kayli Mills even put out a statement saying that she was, quote, absolutely willing to return at any point if AI protections could be provided. The only problem is, the facts don't seem to support this as the primary motive. Fellow voice actor 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗆𝗵𝘁 has already pointed out that standard union agreements have AI protections. More revealingly, Boettger, the former Paimon VA, admitted that the goal was broader, to force Hoyoverse to sign a full SAG-AFTRA interim agreement, which is more about expanding union influence and leverage than it is about a single contract clause.
When Jacob got replaced as his character Kaniche in Genshin, I had sent word to Hoyo that said I refuse to come back until the game is union specifically. And the reason why I said union specifically, because I know some other actors, they just want an AI protection signed. That's all they want, and they're willing to come back into work. For me personally, I will not come back unless it's union, and the reason why is because we are still having issues with getting paid within the 30 days as stated on our contract.
The AI protection angle starts to look less like a specific goal and more like a convenient, sympathetic story for the public consumption. It is a lot more heroic sounding than, we want more money and a better parking spot, I suppose. And on top of that, there has been a widespread speculation, and to be clear, this is just what the people in the community are piecing together, that some of the VAs were being dishonest about the timeline of events, trying to frame the recasting as sudden shock, when in reality they likely knew for a while. But the biggest crack in this principled stand narrative is an inconsistency that is hard to ignore. Kayli Mills' own work. While she was a vocal part of a group pressuring VAs not to work on Genshin, she continued her prominent role in another massive non-union gacha game, Goddess of Victory Nikke. It is a baffling contradiction. How can you attack another VA, Jacob Takanashi, for taking a vacant role on one hand, while you continue to profit from another on the other hand? It suggests that the stand was less about universal principles and more about a specific targeted campaign. And this targeted campaign wasn't just the work of one or two people. It is important to understand that this whole situation was never the entire English VA community on strike. To paint them all with one brush would be completely unfair. Instead, what we saw was a small but very vocal faction of actors driving the conflict, a kind of vocal clique that create what some have described as a VA civil war, drawing a hard line between themselves and those who continue continued to work. At the center of it, of course, were the two voice actors who were ultimately recast: Corina Boettger, the voice of Paimon, and Kayli Mills, the voice of Keqing. But they weren't alone. Another prominent voice in this movement was Sean Chiplock, the voice of 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗵𝗵𝗁, who took a very similar public stance, and you could see the support network around them on social media, with other actors like Kit Harrison and 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗵𝗁 publicly backing their collective action. So basically, you have the starting lineup for a brand new drama team. Knowing that this was a coordinated campaign is crucial because it contextualizes the hostility that came next, a series of actions that went far beyond a simple labor dispute and devolved into something much more personal and unprofessional. This was led quite aggressively by Corina Boettger. They began making public statements calling players stupid and too dumb to understand labor politics.
But you don't know that. Oh my god, it's almost like you're not an actor. It's almost like you're not a voice actor. And neither are those YouTubers. But bottom line is that both non-union actors and union actors in a video game want it to go union and have wanted it to go union for a long time. So nobody else's opinion that is super wrong anyway matters. Hope this helps.
Before escalating to reposting content on social media that broadly accused Hoyoverse fans and YouTubers covering the situation of being, of all things, fascist. But the most telling moment was when a fan trying to be supportive said they wanted to create a mod to put her old Paimon voice lines back into the game. Her public response was to tell them, please don't make that mod. It is a true masterclass in alienating your own supporters and shows a level of resentment that clearly goes far beyond a simple contract dispute. All while Corina's actions were aimed at the community, Kayli Mills' hostility was directed at a voice actor, Jacob Takanashi. She was the central figure in the harassment campaign against him after he took on a role in Genshin, publicly calling his casting announcement diabolical. Things then escalated to a deeply unprofessional level, with reports that she investigated his personal finances and made public claims about his life that she later had to retract and apologize for. This behavior became so significant that the entire controversy has now been added to her public wiki page, solidifying it as a permanent mark on her professional reputation. This wasn't a strike, it was a campaign that devolved into personal attacks and made the actors involved a massive brand risk for any company. And this pattern of behavior, this combination of brand risk and open hostility, that gives context to the recasting. So now, let's look at the fallout from the fans' perspective and the reception to the new voice actors walk into. This is where we get into the in-game changes, starting with Keqing.
Please don't worry, Paimon. Our defenses are as stable as can be, and all units are elite officers who have served in the 𝗖𝗆𝗆𝗵𝗁 plains. With their experience, each one of them is easily worth 100 troops.
And look, for me, this was a personal 9/11. My life is ruined. Hoyoverse ruined my #1 waifu in gacha, and I am devastated. I might sound calm now, but I am truly in despair.
Guys, I'm starting to think that 𝗖𝗆𝗆𝗵𝗁𝗆 might be gay.
I like you. Chicken.
いい天気ね。仕事も一段落したし、買い物にでも行こうかしら。
It is not that the performance was technically bad, it is that it completely misses the character's personality. The tsundere energy, that "it's not like I like you or anything" vibe is just gone. And for me, that changes everything. But, and this is the most important point in the entire section, my personal disappointment, no matter how strongly I feel it, does not give me or anyone else a license to harass the new voice actress. And yet, that is exactly what happened. Hoyoverse kept the new voice actors anonymous, likely anticipating this. But the criticism against the new Keqing VA fixated on a bizarre point of contention: her accent. This escalated into baseless theories and inevitably harassment. This is where the gacha community have to be better. It is absolutely essential to criticize the work, the casting choice, the voice direction, but to never attack the person. We should at least give them a chance to settle into the role. We have seen with Tighnari's recast that initial dislike can fade as the community adapts and embraces a new actor. Now, on a slightly less devastating note, let's talk about Paimon.
Wow, talk about whiplash. One second she's chill and laid back, and then the next she's charging headfirst into danger. Literally!
Brother,
Don't panic. Paimon heard that dreams tell us what we need by showing us the opposite. So, if you had a nightmare, maybe all you need is something to cheer you up.
She still sounds stupid, which, to be fair, is probably the most lore-accurate part of her performance, but it is an improvement. The old voice was like nails on a chalkboard. This is less screeching and has a funny little countryside accent, which I actually find pretty amusing, and my feeling that it is an improvement seems to be shared. When news first leaked that Paimon was being recast, the community reaction was overwhelmingly positive. A lot of players were actually celebrating, and to top it all off, the localization team gave us this gem in the new update.
No,
totally misspoke just now. She didn't say that at all. It was, a Paimon lookalike. Yeah, she's a piece of work, that one. Always impersonating Paimon and giving people weird nicknames.
We got Woke Paimon, a moment of accidental brilliant commentary from the emergency food herself. So after all that, the recast, the unraveled narratives, the social media fallout, and the harassment, where does this whole situation leave us? It leaves us with a clear, undeniable conclusion. The unofficial VA strike was an abject failure. It didn't achieve its stated goals. Instead, its most prominent leaders lost their jobs, not because of a principled stand, but because they made themselves significant brand risk through their own unprofessional behavior. And if you need any final proof that this boycott completely collapsed, you just have to look at what happened next. Almost immediately after the recasts were confirmed, a wave of other voice actors for 𝗏𝗏, for 𝗏𝗏, for 𝗏𝗏, for others, all began publicly announcing their return to work. They saw the writing on the wall and chose to secure their jobs, proving that the most powerful element in Teyvat is, in fact, a steady paycheck. And that is the core lesson here. This was never truly a story about artistic integrity versus AI. It was a business dispute that spiraled into something much uglier. And at the end of the day, a massive company like Hoyoverse will always prioritize a smooth, predictable production pipeline. They will choose professionalism and reliability over accommodating hostility and disruption every single time, regardless of the narrative surrounding it. But that's my take on the entire messy situation. I am curious to hear what you all think. Do you like the new voices? And more broadly, where do you think the line is between valid criticism of a product and unacceptable harassment of the people who create it? Let me know in the comments below. But that is all from me, 𝗖cie𝗽𝗆𝗿𝗵𝗁, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers!